package time.
Last year, I bought this angle grinder belt sander attachment. Now, after using it for a while, I've decided I'm going to do a review and give you guys my thoughts on it. This belt sander attachment attaches to any standard M14 angle grinder, and you just simply take the handguard off and lock it in place with the Allen bolts. The first thing I tested on the belt sander was just this piece of metal plate that I had lying around, and initially getting used to the feed rate and how much pressure I could put on the piece was part of the learning process. Now, it's not ridiculously fast at removing material on metal, but it's a lot better on wood, and I'd probably honestly just use it for sharpening knives and axes and stuff like that. Here is one of the belts that I made myself using some 40 grit cloth-backed abrasive. And you can see here, you can just adjust the tracking of the belts by twisting this knob. Takes a little bit of fiddling. Here's a piece of wooden broom handle that I cut off in the aim of making a file handle. For the ferrule on the file handle, I'm just using a bit of cut off copper pipe that I cleaned up on the belt sander and then fit to the wooden handle. I then hammered the ferrule down onto the wooden handle and ground away the excess wood. I then cut off the excess wood on the back of the handle and slowly ground it to the shape I wanted. With these belts, I'd say that it's pretty good on wood, but I'd probably avoid using it for any heavy metal grinding. Here I have some inch-wide cloth-backed abrasive paper. Now this is 40 grit, like I said earlier, and what I did is I measured out the length of the belts that I had already, and then cut it to length. I made some markings on the table so that I could easily mass-produce belts. The next step is to cut diagonally across both edges of the belt so that they can lie flush together once they're glued up. For the next step, I used two pieces of wood that I'd covered in sellotape to stop any excess glue sticking to, and taped the belt down to this so the edges lie flush with each other. I've tested many different glues on making these belts, probably about 15 in total, and the best one I've found so far is just normal standard epoxy. I then cut some fibre tape to the right length and then mixed up the glue and glued the fibre tape in place, placing the other block on top and clamping in the vise. The belts this method produces are pretty good. They don't last forever, but generally the abrasive wears out before they burst. When I normally make belts, I tend to make a lot more than this at a time, but I thought I'd show you how I would do one individually, just so you guys get an idea of the process I use and how you could implement a similar process yourself. Now, I definitely mentioned that it's quite important to make sure that the fibre tape is lined up as well as possible, because if you accidentally have it hanging over one edge, it can lead to the belt being slightly weaker and more likely to burst as it's running. Considering I paid only £30 for this belt sander attachment, I'd say it's pretty good overall, but I'd really recommend its use for wood projects and maybe even small metal projects. I wouldn't recommend it for bulk metal removal. I'm still just going to use an angle grinder, and I think perhaps I'll use this for, final finish, polishing, none of the heavy duty work. For that I'll rely on other tools. But for the use case, I think if you're doing small things with wood or small things with metal, this is a great addition to any tool collection and a quick, cheap, dirty way to make small things easily. I'm pretty happy with it, but if you're going to buy it, I'd recommend, knowing what you're going to use it for and not intend on making a sword of it, for instance, because that'll take quite a while. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, guys, don't forget to leave a like, and thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.